Welcome to the It's Not Just Weed podcast, where we talk about the real issues behind marijuana use and policy. I'm your host, Matthew Gibbons, and today we're diving into a topic that doesn't get nearly enough attention: the evolving potency of marijuana and its impact on young adults. To help us unpack the science and psychology risk behind it, I'll be joined today by a special guest, Dr. Brooke Keels. Dr. Brooke Keels is the Chief Clinical Officer at Lighthouse Recovery, an expert in mental health and addiction recovery. She's been in the field a long time. I actually have a personal relationship and a professional relationship with Dr. Brooke Keels, and I'm very excited to dive into her insight into this important issue. This episode explores how the increasing potency of marijuana is impacting young adults, particularly in terms of cognitive health, mental well-being, and addiction risk. Rather than pushing for prohibition, the focus here is on promoting education. The aim of the podcast is to educate listeners, particularly young adults, parents, and educators, about how marijuana has changed over time, especially in terms of its potency and serious mental and physical health risks this poses for young adults today. By raising awareness in how modern cannabis differs from past generations' experiences, this episode aims to encourage informed decisions and responsible use, especially among young adult users and the communities that support them. Ultimately, the podcast is not anti-marijuana, but pro-education, focused on ensuring that those most vulnerable to its effects, especially young adults, have accurate, research-based information to help guide their choices. Over the last several decades, marijuana has undergone a transformation that many casual users and members of the public may not fully recognize. While public opinion on cannabis use has grown more lenient and legalization efforts have swept across many U.S. states, one critical aspect of marijuana that has changed is its potency. This has had significant implications for mental and physical health, especially for young adult users whose brains are still in crucial stages of development. In the 1960s to the 1980s, marijuana was primarily consumed in its plant-based form, smoked as joints, pipes, or bongs, with relatively low levels of tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, the main psychoactive ingredient. According to a study by Dr. Nora D. Volkoff, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, the average THC content was about 3% in the 80s, whereas by 2012 that number had increased to approximately 20%. In the years since, that number has continued to climb. Many strains of cannabis today contain over 40% THC, and some higher potency products, particularly cannabis concentrates, also known as wax or dabs, can reach high levels of 60 to 90% THC. This dramatic increase in potency is not simply a matter of getting more bang for your buck. It represents a shift in how marijuana affects the human brain and body. Volkoff states that milder psychoactive effects of early marijuana may have led to relaxation or euphoria, but today's products can induce intense highs, paranoia, anxiety, and in extreme cases, psychosis. This is especially concerning for adolescents and young adults whose brains are still developing and are more susceptible to drugs' long-term effects. Volkoff notes that marijuana use during adolescence is associated with impaired neural connectivity, particularly in brain regions related to memory, learning, and impulse control. The methods of consumption have also evolved. Traditional joints and pipes have largely been supplemented, or in many cases replaced, by modern, high-potency delivering methods. Vape oils and cartridges are now commonplace, often flavored and marketed in a way that appeals to younger audiences. These vaping devices are discreet and easy to use, but they frequently contain concentrated THC oils far stronger than plant-based marijuana. Dabs, wax, and shatter are cannabis extracts consumed through flash vaporization, delivering large amounts of THC in a short period. The result is quicker, more intense highs that also increase the risk of dependency and adverse reaction. Edibles represent another significant development. Often marketed as gummies, chocolates, or baked goods, these products may not take effect until 30 minutes to 2 hours after consumption, which leads many users, especially inexperienced ones, to consume more than intended. Overconsumption of edibles has led to a rise in emergency room visits for panic attacks, severe anxiety, and even hallucinations. This stark contrast between the marijuana of previous generations and the products used today cannot be overstated. What was once a relatively mild, plant-based substance is now part of a multi-billion-dollar industry producing highly engineered psychoactive products. While some advocate for these innovations as part of medical cannabis treatments, the recreational use of such potent forms raise serious public health concerns. Young adults are particularly vulnerable. The National Institute on Drug Abuse reports that perceptions of risk among young adult users have declined in parallel with legalization and shifting public attitudes. However, this declining perception of danger does not match the growing scientific evidence that today's marijuana is far more harmful than its earlier forms, especially in terms of long-term cognitive function and mental health outcomes. To deepen this discussion in my podcast, I will be interviewing Dr. Brooke Keels, Chief Clinical Officer at Lighthouse Recovery, and a seasoned mental health professional with over 15 years of experience in addiction recovery. Her insights into how rising THC levels have affected the patterns of addiction recovery in young adults will offer a clinical and deeply human perspective on the risks associated with modern marijuana use. Some of the questions I plan to ask Dr. Keels include: have you seen changes in marijuana potency affect young adults you work with? Do you think increased potency has led to more cases of a dependency or psychological distress? And how do you educate families and patients on the differences between past and present cannabis? Through this interview, I hope to highlight the need for increased public education on marijuana's evolution. Many young adult users are unaware that the drug their parents may have used recreationally in the 1980s is fundamentally different in chemical structure and potency from what's available now. Without this awareness, they may underestimate the risk involved in developing habits that could impair their health and well-being in lasting ways. Ultimately, this portion of the podcast is designed to inform listeners, especially young adults, parents, and educators, about the scientific reality of marijuana's evolution. It underscores the need for caution, education, and critical thinking when it comes to how cannabis is discussed, used, and legalized in today's world. All right, well, thank you for being here, Dr. Brooke. I was going to give you a second to kind of tell the listeners kind of your background in addiction and kind of what brought you here to Lighthouse Recovery.
Sure. So happy to be here. I, education-wise, have a master's in counseling psychology and a master's and PhD in marriage and family therapy. I've been in the field for, 16 years now, and didn't mean to start out in addiction, just, when you're doing, your license. So I got my license prior to starting my PhD program, and so my license is LPC supervisor, and I ended up the first group that, this local community center let me work at, and they were like, here's your group, and it was all guys who were getting out of prison for felony drug charges. And so,
it's a good start.
And all lived in the halfway house. And so I walked in and they had no idea. I had no idea. I knew it was substance, but whatever. And then anyways, I was like, wait, y'all are felons? And they were like, yeah. So anyway, it ended up being one of the best things for me, and just such an incredible experience. So that was during, I think, my practicum or internship. So it started then. And it's very personal to me. I've lost my father-in-law, my sister-in-law, my husband's best friend, all to overdoses, and these were all very successful people. It wasn't, and then I have a family member that I love dearly that has no rock bottom, and so just get tired of watching people die.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful my husband is very supportive, because as you know, this work takes 24 hours a day, and then it's also one of those things where I'm not very good at very many things, but I'm very good at this. So I think that came into play. But specifically for Lighthouse, one of the co-founders and owners, he and I became friends 10 years ago. I used to run an adolescent inpatient facility, adolescent male in Louisiana, and he did a transport, brought a kid. And we, just met each other, and we're like, are we best friends? And became friends and stayed friends for 10 years. And then, so 4 years ago, I moved. We were in Louisiana, was in Nashville, running an international nonprofit there. And he called me up. It's like, you ready to move to Dallas? And we did. So I've been here for 4 years. And I specialize in program design and counselor training and support. So, that's really where I think my giftings are, and specifically in the arena of addiction treatment. But I would not do addiction treatment if it was not for this team, because it is just incredibly difficult to do without a really great team. So that's how we got here, and 4 years in now. So
I mean, it's awesome getting to know you, on a personal level and then a professional level over the past 2 years I've been here, and I know we've had several conversations about what we're facing is evolving.
Yeah.
And, especially when it comes to marijuana, I mean, we've had several clients come in and psychosis with schizoaffective disorder and, things that we've not seen. How would you describe the changes in marijuana potency and how it's affected young adults over the past, tenure of your career?
So, the phrase that we like to say is this is not, the ditch weed that we had. Of course, I graduated high school in 2000, so to give context for that, In college, it just wasn't. I mean, you knew people that were like potheads, but it was, they were smoking all day, and like I don't know, it just wasn't what it was. And there was, some stigma around it, but it's kind of interesting because as the stigma has shifted, and this idea of legalizing it, what it always does, and we can blame capitalism or whatever we want to decide we want to blame for that. It's how do we make it kind of harder, faster, stronger, right?
Yeah.
And this simultaneous idea of like it's not that big of a deal that I'll say the THC lobbyists pushed has been to our detriment, because while that was happening, we used to have 2 to 3%, and like that was like a very big deal, right? And then now, I have a family that I worked with, because I'll do consulting, and family that their 9th grader took a hit of 96% and it put him in a coma.
Oof.
And so, that wasn't even a thing, right?
Yeah.
We weren't trying to get, I won't cuss on this, but, we weren't trying to get effed up. You were just trying to, like, have a little fun. And I think also the culture of drug use has changed. It used to be very, frankly, community-oriented. And I think at some level it still is. Like, you want to go hang out with your friends, and so you want to get high, whatever. But the levels that kids are using, they're not building community. We're pulling them out of dorm rooms where they've been in their bed urinating for days on end, or it's causing schizophrenia, which to my knowledge is the first time we've actually had a cause for schizophrenia. So yeah, it's just, there's just this kind of moment in culture, but unfortunately the message that it's not that big of a deal has not shifted at all. And I think that is a very big problem, and I think we can be honest about the fact of just be honest, like this is what it does. And you can like that or not like that, but that's the reality of the situation. It's not a judgment on, people on weed or whatever. It's just like alcohol, like this is what it does to the body. You can like that or not like that. It's just a fact. So yeah, I think that's been culturally, I think the biggest shift too. But yeah, the potency is literally they are genetically modifying even the flower to be as potent as possible and pulling that out with like different, it's almost like sommeliers of wine for like weed now, and whether it's the indica or the sativa or like whatever, and how you make sure this one's going to relax you, and this, but they're trying to just go again harder, faster, stronger, and I think to the detriment especially of our kids.
Now, have you seen an increase in dependency that has coincided with the increase in potency?
Oh yeah, because the message was, and you may not remember this, was like that you could not get addicted to weed. Or like it's not bad, you can't get addicted. That
is non-addicting.
Like,
oh, you don't drink alcohol.
Like, I'm psychologically addicted. I'm not like actually addicted. And you know this. We're sending people to detox for weed now. It is causing, and I can't ever say, it's going to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm okay with that, but oh gosh, what's the word? I can't think of it. You can look it up. Forget, but basically, like, people are like violently throwing up, getting, having to be put in the hospital. THC is a psychoactive. We like to forget that part. Like, that's what it is. And so, it's causing psychosis, it's doing all that, but it is physiologically affecting people in a huge way, and we're having to send them to detox for THC, which is bananas. And as you also know, insurance doesn't want to pay for that, because insurance is like, well, it's just weed. And I'm like, well, they're on the floor, shivering and hallucinating. So we've got to figure that out. Got to send them to the hospital. So.
Yeah, and then when talking or speaking with parents or young adults, what should the message be? To kind of break it down and to make sure that people are being educated about this and the potential risk.
Yeah. That's a really good question, because I think it's a very layered approach. I know for us here, what's hard about it is because often parents believe the message, or they think it's the same weed they had in the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, right? And that it's like, well, it's just weed. It's not that big of a deal. And parents have not caught on to, how many times have we had families like, well, we thought it was just weed, and their kid is truly, could be diagnosed schizophrenic at that point. And so I think the messaging is, one, you've got to understand this is not the same thing. And we just say it over and over. It's just not the same. Do not compare it to anything you've ever known. And then educating parents too on like the entire industry is genetically modifying this, understanding that the wax is the concentrate.
Yeah.
And they're even figuring out new ways of how to smoke it best because you have to get it so hot.
Yeah, it's an instant vaporization.
Yeah,
it's like a chemical project.
Yeah, and they went from it wasn't it like I don't know it was like titanium to like ceramic to now quartz. Like I mean, there are people that are this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And if the idea that it's just a bunch of hippies at Woodstock, like that is not the thing anymore. This isn't, what's actually happening. And so I do wish that there would be more, again, just the reality of it. I think that people feel really judged. I feel like Andrew Huberman, I don't know if you listen to any of his stuff, he's got a great podcast on THC, on kratom, and alcohol, where it's just the science of it. Like if we were just honest about the science of it, it's not a judgment statement. I want everybody to have a great time, but not at the risk of you potentially being schizophrenic at the end of it, And I think just educating people that it's just different, And again, I won't get into conspiracy theories, but the industry itself does not want that to happen, But for us in our field, and I think too, like communicating in a way that is non-judgmental and it's just here are the facts. This is what we want you to know. Here's how you can support your kids and educating them in that same thing. It's just not the same as it was, and I think that's just the truth. And the truth can be very kind and empowering for people, and that's hopefully what we try and do here. But across the board, I think there needs to be a lot more communication about it. Colleges and universities is a big one too. I mean, all of our guys that have been in psychosis, they've pulled them out of dorms. It's very rarely high school, though that we're seeing that more and more as well. But yeah. Everyone's afraid of fentanyl, which is bad because it will kill you immediately. But THC is a mass problem that we have.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Peels. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so happy to do it. Thank you.
If today's episode resonated with you, whether you're a student, a parent, a teacher, or just someone curious about how marijuana is evolving, I encourage you to take the next step. Start a conversation with someone about what you learned. Share this episode with your community, your campus, or even on social media to help spread awareness. We can't afford to treat marijuana like it's the same substance it was decades ago. Education is our best defense, and you can be a part of that movement. Let's make sure young people have the facts they need to make informed, healthy decisions. Thanks for tuning into this episode of It's Not Just Weed. I hope today's conversation helped shed light on the critical and often overlooked issue of marijuana's evolving potency and the impact it's having on young adults. With insights from experts like Dr. Brooke Keels and research from leaders such as Dr. Nora Volkoff, it's clear that today's cannabis is not the same as it was a generation ago. It's stronger, more accessible, and potentially more harmful, especially for developing minds. But remember, this podcast isn't about fear. It's about facts. It's about equipping young adults, parents, educators, and communities with the knowledge they need to make informed decisions. Marijuana may be more socially acceptable than ever, but acceptance shouldn't come at the cost of awareness. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, take care of yourself. Thanks for listening.